All right, so too much corrective exercise. Now, first of all, what is corrective exercise? And basically, it is a concept or term that is looking at corrections in posture and mechanics and muscle length tension relationships and how things fit together in the body that may cause a optimal or proper posture, if you will, across the whole body as a whole, but also specifically at each joint. So if I have a length tension relationship problem, say simply at the shoulder, I may have internally or anteriorly rotated shoulders from a tight pec minor. It's causing poor posture, some shoulder impingement here. I've got weak external rotators on the back side of the shoulder, which is causing me to drift forward and have this kind of hunchback kind of situation going on. So, for example, we would strengthen up the backside external rotators, loosen up the pec minors, and get more of a proper balance and position for the shoulder there. So you might do something like some sort of foam rolling and stretching on the tight muscle group to loosen up that tissue, to get it more pliable and lengthened, and to deactivate it a bit, if you will, to take the pressure and tension off the front side of the shoulder, and then strengthen up the back side to add tension and shorten up those muscles to get it back into the alignment you're looking for. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, the process of corrective exercise for the most part throughout the entire body. So we've got all sorts of problems and limitations throughout the body that you might encounter, and there's all sorts of great ways to treat and alleviate these issues. Now, my issue today and the rant for today is too much corrective exercise. So this is something that's been a big growing trend in the fitness industry for the last, say, 5 to 10 years or so, and it's really taken off, and for, I would say, ultimately for the good. It's more education and more innovation for trainers and knowledge to really bring to their clients and into the community. But at the same time, I want to talk about the negatives of this today and why this might be problematic and why it's actually shooting a lot of trainers in the foot who may have very well intentions on this, but it's really starting to make them chase their tails and really get to nowhere. So it's really taken a trainer, and the role of a trainer, I'd say the working definition of a trainer is to change someone's life and to help them build more muscle and burn body fat and look better naked, improve body fat percentage, to be more functional, more active, to live a pain-free lifestyle. Pretty simple definition there, I would say, to build muscle, burn fat, basically. Now, over the past several decades, this has been done with general strength training exercises, cardiovascular fitness type programs, but nothing too flashy or fancy. Exercise, move more, eat less, basically, you could think of. But now it's becoming where trainers are becoming therapists and rehab specialists, and they're really taking their scope of practice and really expanding it. And this, again, is good and bad. It just depends on who you end up working with, what their knowledge level is, what their training level is, and how they learn this and went about getting this information and education. But it's one thing if you're a trainer who's read this in a book and just picked this up. It's another, and just try to integrate it into your client the next day. That's kind of you're experimenting and you're just putting this into your scientific speculation and testing on them. But you really don't have this rigor of background and history of really cause and effect and trial and error with, say, a research group or a population where you really know what the hell you're doing, basically. So that's something to consider here. And what I see a lot of trainers doing is sort of chasing their foot. They kind of are chasing their tail. They might fix a shoulder, but then there's some other problem. They didn't really get to the root cause of the problem, so the other shoulder ends up imbalanced. Then it goes to the hip, and then the other hip, and then they start having all these issues manifest and expose themselves, and they end up going all over the place, chasing these pains specifically and individually, and they're spending all this time in the workout rolling and stretching and activating and all these things, and they're spending more and more time of the workout where we're supposed to be moving more and eating less kind of stuff. And they're not really getting to that point. Work capacity still suffers, but we're doing all this rehab and therapy type training, and they might be better anatomically and getting more of a properly balanced, say, injury preventative sort of body, perhaps, if you will. But they're really not any more fit. They haven't lost any body fat. They're not they don't have any improvement in cardiorespiratory capacity, no improvement in work density, no strength gains were ever achieved because so much time is really spent on that corrective exercise. So, I'd be talking in terms of someone who's got, say, 60 minutes per day to work on this, and it all depends on your time management and your ability to understand cause and effect and how to prioritize these issues and actually work on one issue and how to do it in the most time-efficient way possible, and whether it's something that really should be time should be spent on this and whether it should be a high priority or not. So, how do you manage that priority and still get this client to build work density, improve strength, and burn body fat and gain muscle mass? So that is really the trick here to become an excellent practitioner of the two elements. But again, so many times I see trainers who may get a client who's here for fat loss and spend all this time focused and worried on these other peripheral issues that they never truly get anywhere. And the clients a lot of times don't always understand why. So the trainer's thinking of what their needs and their wants are, and the client's thinking of what their needs and wants are, and there's a disconnect, and the trainer's thinking, I need to correct and fix and correct and fix, and they're kind of hell-bent on that, and the client probably over half the time could care less about this situation. They don't care that they got poor posture, they want to burn body fat. You know, and I understand that. So you got to really put your needs aside and understand the client's perspective here and kind of bridge the two together. And what is a need versus nice to have kind of situation and scenario. So I'm going to give you an example of a client that I had that sort of, to me, that really made this make perfect concrete sense to me in my head. So there's a client that many of you may have seen on our website, Mike Marker, who is a very dear client of mine. He's trained with us for years now. When I first met Mike, my head did a complete 360 when I saw this guy walk in the door, but because he was completely imbalanced. You could just see that his balance and body coordination was a bit off, and my job ahead of me was pretty arduous. So seeing him walk in the door, I just realized, okay, we got a lot of work to do. So we won't be able to do a lot of free weight exercises at first because his posture was not safe, really kyphotic and rounded over, hunched back, poor flexibility, mobility, and so I kind of had to really think. I can't go to my normal go-to exercises of the big rock type, barbell back squats, deadlifts, things like that. They're going to really require most of the body's efforts to really do the exercise and burn more calories, burn more lean body mass. So I really had to think of how can I get this guy to build work density so he can burn body fat. He was type 2 diabetic for 12 years, and my main goal, his goals and his needs were to drop his blood sugar, get off his insulin, not be diabetic anymore, and to lose well over 100 pounds. So with those goals in mind, and keep in mind that this guy was very skeptical of the process, buying a trainer, is this a worthy investment? Can I even lose 100 pounds? Can I cure my diabetes? Are these things even possible, and can I do this personally? And is this trainer the guy to help me, and can he do this? Is he competent enough to do this? So I think he bought like a month's worth of training in the first month, and so I needed to let him know, and he needed to know that this was possible. I'm serious. I know what I'm doing. We can do this, and here's what it's going to take. So our goal was to burn, move more, eat less. It wasn't that simple, but my goal was to work on his imbalances and his problems, to build his work capacity, to not hurt him, and to make this all come together over the big picture. And so he needed to see some measurable progress in that first month. He saw drops in his blood sugar levels. He saw pounds of weight loss within that first month, and I didn't hurt him. His understanding of correct exercise, this was 6 or 7 plus years ago, before this term really exploded in the fitness industry. And, of course, people study this stuff, know about it, but it really wasn't a public knowledge. So my goal was to not hurt the guy. So this is good, simple coaching, and making sure you're not a dumbass and taking unnecessary risks with a client, and teaching proper form and keeping someone safe. That's rule one as a trainer. It's first do no harm, and you shouldn't need all these corrective fixes and fears if you're doing things properly first and foremost, using the right resistance, the right appropriate exercises for the client, and you should be able to alleviate some of those fears and concerns first of all. So Mike lost, like I said, his blood sugar went down, lost weight, and he was now starting to commit more and more to the process, and we started to do more and more months of training. Mike eventually got off his 2 forms of insulin. He got off blood pressure medication. He lost over 100 pounds in under a year. We built a great lasting relationship with each other. Got him to work out 6 days a week of exercise with strength training. He did up to about an hour's worth of cardio a day and melted away. And the guy basically, performed a miracle in a short amount of time. But his posture still sucks. There's things that are in his skeleton. He's got calcification in certain parts of his tendons, ligaments. His muscles are calcified. There's certain things that we will not ever be able to change in Mike's body and completely correct. Now, if I had taken that mindset from day one that I need to correct all these imbalances and fix all these problems before we start to load and train very aggressively or intensely or build work density, we would have gotten nowhere. And to this day, we'd still be working on those issues because certain parts of these tissues are not ever going to get to that standard. But the whole entire time, we were using good programming that would work on the proper amount of push to pull sort of exercises, working on posture during his normal exercises, and doing them correctly with the best posture that he had. I would sneak in certain stretches throughout the day where I would have time, and I would try to carve out the appropriate amount of time in each workout to get these stretches done and still work on the strength training qualities, the work capacity, the boot camp conditioning type stuff we did to really keep that big picture priority together for his goals and to what I knew behind the scenes he truly needed. So balancing that out is what's really going to get you to that client's goal to, look better naked, build muscle, burn body fat. So keep that in respect. You basically need to be stealth-like in your ability to implement these principles and these practices of corrective movement and exercise within the big picture. So, it shouldn't have to be this big, long detour. And every time you encounter a problem that it's just got to derail your whole entire program and project here. But it's a big picture thing that needs to come together. So the right amount of education for that client is appropriate. Sometimes they don't care. Sometimes they like to know about it. But really it doesn't matter. Whatever gets the job done for them. So the appropriate amount of education and perhaps teaching them some things that they can do on their own before the workout, after the workout, can sometimes be very awesome. But a lot of times they're not even compliant to that, and you can't always guarantee that. So we like to do a lot of specific corrective stretches between sets as they're recovering. We do a lot of supersetting, and we'll do that stretch between the exercise that will help get a better range of motion and movement for that exercise. But ultimately, we teach proper posture from day one, and with our dynamic warm-up, we're teaching ways to mobilize and move the body a bit. So when we do proper programming with the right amount of push and pull for various joints and positions in the body, we are correcting the body. And it's just a different method of intervention than, say, perhaps what's classically looked at of, say, some of the self-myofascial release with the rolling or stretching like we talked about. But we're always working on the right, strong, solid foundation and positions that are safe. But if we can also develop a better posture in the process, it's a win-win situation. That client gets what they want, we're getting what we know that they want, but also what they actually need, and we're helping them across the board. So we're keeping them injury-free, we're correcting their problems, and getting them to the actual goal. So it's win-win-win. So I got to really reiterate that Mike wouldn't have been my client longer than a month, and I wouldn't have the relationship that I have with Mike today. I wouldn't have saved his life the way we did. He was seeing 7 doctors when I first met him. Now he sees just a general practitioner, and he sees his trainer, period. So that's the way to live, and Mike's going to have a much more fulfilling, lasting, healthy lifestyle, diabetes-free, because I understood that early on, and perhaps I got lucky, I don't know. But it made sense, and Mike was able to become more fit, and we can work on his imbalances and corrections for the rest of his life. Certain things we'll fix, some we won't, but the body is a constantly changing, evolving organism. And again, if you take this concept of isolation thought that we're going to fix this issue and your problems are solved, you're going to have another issue next week and the next week, and you're constantly chasing your tail. So first and foremost, you got to do exercises correctly, no proper biomechanics, no proper and organized programming that's going to keep the whole body intact, functional, and as pain-free as possible. You're never going to be pain-free every day of your life. You're going to experience things, and especially the harder you push the envelope of performance and the bigger your goals are, you're going to have some wear and tear and some good and bad pain to deal with, but that doesn't mean you should be derailed. So you got to know the appropriate amount of good pain versus bad pain, and what is a serious pain and what's a deal breaker. A deal breaker to me is a flexion of the spine with loads on the back, or say a deadlift. So if you're going to squat or deadlift, you got to maintain a rigid steel, neutral / posture hold position / athletic spine sort of position. You can't break that rule. So in order to get to that position, that might be one of your early correctives that you really got to work on to get that person ready for more advanced training or more aggressive training. So hopefully this makes sense in terms of too much corrective exercise. If it's derailing your goal and it's taking, if your corrective exercise is making you tired before a workout, it's making you want to take a nap instead of actually go be aggressive and exercise, then you got your priorities mixed up. The way I like to structure the corrective exercise, again, though, would be the right amount of stuff to mobilize and inhibit the tight structures that are going to make you not perform as well for that workout. So let's say you have tight hamstrings and it's preventing you to squat correctly. I would roll and stretch those out, say perhaps before the workout, but that doesn't mean you go through all your problems and issues before the workout. Do what you need to do to be activated and do a dynamic warm-up, say before the workout. Do some good static stretching or rolling, say post-workout, but say the real good time, the best time to do this would be pre-bed, 15 to 30 minutes before bed, where you can really stretch and mobilize that stuff. It will increase blood flow, it decreases blood pressure, gets you relaxed. It's sort of like almost a yoga session before you go to bed. You will sleep better and then wake up actually looser than you were, and not waking up as tight and stiff and moving poorly already in the morning. So you can do doses of some corrective work before workout, in between sets of your workout, like I said, with certain stretches, after the workout, spend your longer period of time, say before bed, and say even some quick refreshers first thing in the morning. I like to do some brief stretches that are reinforcing what I did, say, the night before. So keep that in respect, and you'll get to the goals that your client is after, the goals you're after, and not lose them in the process.